The Homesteads to Hollywood podcast is a CJSW original production funded by the Radio Meter Program Grant through the Community Radio Fund of Canada. In the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we would also like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. This includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary, traditionally recognized by the Blackfoot name of Mohkinstsis, is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6.
Part 2. God's Country.
I've been a lot of places, but Alberta's a fantastic place to make a picture, especially an outdoor picture or a Western picture. The infrastructure we've got here, the people, the work ethic of the crews, and its natural beauty and things like that is just pretty hard to compare anywhere else.
From Cool Runnings to The Revenant and Brokeback Mountain to The Last of Us, cinematic star power didn't just happen to Alberta. In fact, the province has a long and illustrious history in film that has developed into an internationally renowned industry. From Homesteads to Hollywood, Alberta takes center stage in this 10-part exploration into how things came to be and where they're going. My name is Liam Daw.
And I'm Ingrid Vargas. Together we'll be peeling back the layers of Alberta's intricate film industry to answer the question, just how did we get here? There are many elements that each play their role in this ecosystem, such as a storied past, a vibrant underground, a deep talent pool in the trades, and of course, the continuous run-on blockbusters. In Part 1 of Homesteads to Hollywood, we explored the origins of Alberta's film history. Mary Graham, the author of A Stunning Backdrop, provided us with a new perspective of the unassuming but significant relationship between Old Hollywood and the Western Canadian province. As the mid-century turned a corner, so did Alberta's growing film industry. At the helm of it, one name can be recognized time and time again: John Scott.
As a rancher, wrangler, and stuntman, John has worn many hats and seen the many eras and transformations of Alberta's filmscape. Over the years, his ranch in Longview, Alberta has become a notorious filming location for big-time westerns and has even gone on to receive international recognition. During the Cannes Film Festival in 2023, the province took home honors for Location of the Year through the Global Production Awards.
In December of 2023, our small crew took pilgrimage to the John Scott Ranch to take in the view for ourselves.
Wow.
We witnessed the clear, sweeping skies and rolling foothills that elevated west into the Rocky Mountains.
Wow, that's just beautiful. Wow.
As John toured us through the rest of his property, which included 3 separate townsite sets, it wasn't hard to understand why so many filmmakers chose to center their cinematography around these landscapes.
So this is our second location here on the ranch. There's 3 movie locations on this quarter section. So we try to build them and hide them from each other so you can't see. So the director can shoot up there in the morning, then come down, shoot here in the afternoon. He's got 2 locations very close. My grandfather homesteaded this ranch in 1904 and raised his family here. I'm 3rd generation on the ranch. In 1969, I got into the movie business with a show called Little Big Man. And I was hired as a writing extra on it at $25 a day and thought, well, this is a lot of fun. And then I got moved up with the stunt guys and was getting $100 a day. I thought this is really the business. In December the 10th, roughly, of 69, we had a big Chinook wind come in here and raise the temperature to 80 above Fahrenheit at the time. They'd come here for winter scenes and wanted snow. Well, everybody's dressed in their shirt sleeves, and it was so warm, and they're along the banks of the Bow River up at Morley. And all the veteran stunt guys and Wranglers said, this will be the next place they're going to make Western pictures. There's no skyscraper, there's no power poles, there's no anything to interfere with the view of the beautiful landscape that's here. And I kind of picked up on that, and I'd always been enthused about pictures, and Westerns especially, so that stayed in my head. Well, then when the show was over, they invited me to come to Hollywood to learn the ropes a bit, and worked on the sets of Adias Smith and Jones, Big Valley, and Gunsmoke. For nothing, just to learn the business and see what they did and see how it all would come together.
The early 70s held a lot of promise for Alberta's film industry. After a relatively dormant decade that was the 1960s, activity in the sector was jump-started by the large American productions that began to make their way back into the province. As John mentioned, in 1969, Dustin Hoffman and Faye Dunaway starred in the Arthur Penn film Little Big Man. The momentum continued, with pictures such as 1971's Prime Cut, starring Gene Hackman.
They came here to do a show called Prime Cut, and I started as a Wrangler on that. And at that time, the Teamsters Union out of Los Angeles covered the 13 northwestern states and the 3 western provinces. So they'd sent up an American Wrangler to basically match what I was doing. So on Prime Cut is where I got to meet Gene Hackman and became good friends, and I became a photo double for him, and then I became a stunt double for him. Went quite a few places with him on some different pictures, and just a fantastic actor.
Real smart. You and Jake, you think you're big men, huh? You walk in anywhere, you take down your pants and I'll take down mine. We'll see who's the biggest man.
In 1973, the production set for Pioneer Woman came to southern Alberta, featuring a young William Shatner, as well as the on-screen debut of Academy Award-winning actress Helen Hunt. As he noted in our conversation, working on Pioneer Woman was a tough but formative experience for John as he began to cut his teeth in the industry.
Pioneer Woman came here, and it was one of the first pictures that we were really getting our feet wet on, and Les Kimber was kind of an assistant production manager. I was a Wrangler on the picture, but they conned us into doing a lot of things that are all divided now. The Wrangling business sort of started here with Frank Edge and myself and Tom Glass, and we're the 3 main Wranglers on that to get it going. One week, Tom Glass had one 24-hour day, and I had 2 24-hour days, because we were filling water trucks and looking after transportation and wrangling all at the same time. Those units are strictly divided now. You know, they worked us right into the ground. We were on a flat at the time. I think the Wranglers, whatever drivers they had, were $250 a week, and the department head might have been $500 a week, maybe. It was a lot of very hard work on that picture, putting it together, and so then took off my Wrangling hat and back to my transportation. I was taking the producer to the airport, and they're leaving town. His wife says, "This is such a beautiful country and such a beautiful place, and the people here are so wonderful." He says, "I'm sure going to miss them." He just says, "Forget about it. We're never going to see them again. We'll never be back." So I got my eyes open how kind of ruthless this business can be. When they want you and need you, they're the greatest thing in the world, and when they don't, they can throw you in a corner like a dirty rag.
In 1975, Universal Pictures came into Banff National Park to shoot Mustang Country, starring Patrick Wayne, son of the legendary John Wayne. That same year, director Robert Altman brought Paul Newman to Morley, Alberta for Buffalo Bill and the Indians, and not long after that, Terrence Malick put Alberta on display for his 1976 sophomore film, Days of Heaven.
A callback to the Northwest Meller, Days of Heaven was a romantic period drama starring playwright Sam Shepard and a young Richard Gere. It eloquently captured the magic and spirit of the Alberta light.
He knew there was nothing there could be done.
Go slow.
You only live on this earth once. And to my opinion, as long as you're around, you should have it nice.
So all in all, that's how things kind of went ahead. Then we did one of our first Academy Award-winning pictures. It was called Days of Heaven. And we shot that down around Lethbridge, the Milk River Ridge, Waterton, Heritage Park in Calgary. And it was directed by Terry Malick. Anyhow, that was quite a picture. It won an Academy Award for photography, but it was shared by 2 photographers, Haskell Wexler and another gentleman I'll think of here in a minute too.
The second director of photography John was thinking of was Nestor Almendros. He and Haskell Wexler shared the Academy Award for Best Cinematography in 1977. With its biblical imagery and existential undertones filmed on the Scott Ranch at Golden Hour, this would be Alberta's first big win, but certainly not its last.
Much of the success Alberta's film industry experienced during its prolific run in the 70s actually traces back to politics. While at the helm in Parliament for 14 years, Premier Peter Lougheed made conscious decisions for Alberta's arts sector, including the appointing of a film commissioner, which would become Canada's first. This would prove to be consequential to the industry for years to come, something that John bared witness to firsthand.
In that time, we had a great premier come to Alberta. His name was Peter Lougheed. When he got voted in, his wife says, all I want you to do is do something for the arts. And he said he would. He started the first film commission that we had in Canada, and he started the first film commissioner to run that, and his name was Chuck Ross. So Chuck's job was to promote pictures. So by now, Les Kimber and myself are getting a little bit more established in the film business, so he'd take us to Hollywood, take us to the studios and things like that to promote Alberta. And it worked out pretty well, but Chuck, he always wanted to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, and Les and I were wanting to take these producers and that out for dinner and that, so we kind of started doing that on our own. Through it involved some business and some interest in Alberta. In the early days, when Chuck Ross took Les Kimber and myself down there, it was an eye-opener just to get past security and get into the studios and see how they operated and what they did. They started to know that Alberta was interested in the film business. Then we had other film commissioners such as Bill Marsden. I think Bill Marsden was maybe about our second film commissioner that we had here in Alberta. And he's very dedicated to it and did quite a job and did a lot of promotion to bring the pictures here. And he put out a book called Big Screen Country, which explains a lot about the pictures that did happen in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s here in Alberta. And he'd make several trips to L.A., and quite often Les Kimber and myself and Murray Ord would go down there with him. It really helped. It was sales. It was very competitive. What we had here to sell was the expertise of the crews and the scenery of Alberta. That was our big selling point. And no sales tax. That was a big deal, too.
As a side note about Bill Marsden, he unfortunately passed away in 2006, but is widely considered to be one of the fathers of the Alberta film industry. His 2004 memoir, Big Screen Country, recounts many of the province's important milestones in film through his own eyes and has served our research and data collection extremely well. If you're able to, you should pick it up. It has more first-hand accounts and detailed anecdotes than you could ever cram into a podcast episode. From what we've read, heard, and seen, Bill is a huge reason why filmmakers saw opportunity in Alberta again, and he even includes John in his own acknowledgments, as the two of them worked very hard to keep the delicate but promising film hopes alive for Alberta.
And then we started putting together producer tours. So we always kind of hooked it up with the Calgary Stampede. We'd fly in maybe 10 producers and show them all the scenery we had and the locations and everything else, and then take them to the Calgary Stampede and use that as the hook, and they absolutely loved it. And we got quite a bit of business out of that. I remember one picture, and we go to the trade fair down there, the location deal, and that was really an eye-opener because countries from Russia to Jamaica to every state in the Union pretty well had a booth there at the trade fair promoting. They all wanted a piece of the movie pie. Vancouver was also starting to put together a film commission as well, and they had a good friend of mine called Justice Green. And Justice Green was down in Hollywood knocking on the doors the same as we were. It always seemed like we were about 3 days behind Justice. So he was starting to get the bulk of the business over there. And actually in 1975, we had a show with Paul Newman called Buffalo Bill and the Indians and some other shows, and Vancouver had very, very little. The Directors Guild flew me over there to see why we had more pictures in Alberta than they did in BC. So that was how things started to evolve. As the years went by, we got bigger pictures. So 1981, it went dry. We had no business here whatsoever, and a few commercials, and that was about it.
As we discovered while researching for Part 1, Movie People, Alberta's film industry certainly wasn't bulletproof. Much like the drop-off in the 1930s, the 1980s weren't nearly as active a period for making pictures in the province as the decade that preceded it. This can be attributed to several things, but primarily the severe economic recession felt around the world at that time, and a rough stretch for the arts, as Alberta transitioned from Lougheed to Don Getty, who was keen on slashing government spending.
That isn't to say that no productions came out of Alberta during the 80s. Amongst others, films such as Superman 3 and the early Jim Carrey picture Finders Keepers provided infrequent work for industry jobs around the province. What's strange, though, was the complete drop-off in big-budget American westerns. After Days of Heaven, it seemed like Alberta was ready to captivate international audiences once again. As it turned out, blockbuster westerns did eventually return to southern Alberta. It just took a little while to materialize.
We went on over the years to create roughly 6 Academy Award-winning pictures here in Alberta. There are Days of Heaven, Unforgiven, Legends of the Fall, Assassination of Jesse James, Shanghai Noon, Brokeback Mountain, and The Revenant. 7 pictures, all made here. A lot of them were for photography, but Unforgiven had Best Director, I believe Best Actor, and Best Supporting Actor was won by Gene Hackman.
Fast forward to the 90s, and Alberta had once again returned to being a central filming location for large Hollywood productions. This blockbuster renaissance was kickstarted in 1992 when Clint Eastwood brought a crew that included Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman to the Scott Ranch to film Unforgiven. Western to its core, Unforgiven shaped the future of the genre, and as John mentioned, went on to win Academy Awards for Best Director, Actor, Supporting Actor, and Film Editing. Although, you could make the case that it was actually Alberta who stole the show, with its sprawling vistas and dramatic backdrops. To this day, Unforgiven remains the most decorated film shot in Alberta.
Going back to that great premiere, I said we had Peter Lougheed. He was all for the arts and all for the promotion of film business. He had 2 helicopters at his disposal. So when an American producer would come up here, he'd give us a helicopter to put them in and take them around, show them Alberta. So we could find just the absolute right location within about 3 hours. And it was fantastic, the service we got from the government then and the promotion and what they helped to do. And when we brought Clint Eastwood up here to do Unforgiven, Clint was also a helicopter pilot. Peter's pilot let him fly the machine a bit while we're looking for places to build the town and things like that. It all helped to cement the deal to make it, and then we finished the tour and had a major meeting at the top of the Husky Tower in Calgary, and Clint Eastwood said what he wanted to do and how many people he wanted to bring in, and he wanted to bring in 13 of his key people in the key departments. We convinced the IA that was going to have to happen in order for us to get the picture. And it did. And the picture worked very, very well. It was very successful, made money, helped put us on the map.
Perhaps the location sold itself, but it's not hard to think the right people needed to say and offer the right things to prospective filmmakers such as Clint Eastwood in order to land big-time productions much like Unforgiven. Looking back, all of those promotional trips to Hollywood that Bill and John took really paid off for Alberta. It's not just a hunch either. Included in Bill Marsden's memoir, Big Screen Country, is a scan of a letter addressed to him on September 13, 1994 from Warner Brothers producer David Valdez, who had co-produced Unforgiven with Eastwood. It reads, "Dear Bill, I understand that you're being honored with a special dinner that acknowledges the invaluable contributions you've made in bringing filmmakers to the beautiful province of Alberta. True, Alberta is a producer's dream come true when one thinks of the spectacular scenery, the friendly people, the skilled crews. But it was you who convinced both Clint and me that it was the place to film Unforgiven, and for this we'll always be grateful. Unforgiven will go down in the cinema history books as a classic that garnered 4 Oscars. At the time of scouting locations back in the summer of '91, who would have thought we were going to be so blessed? I'm happy to hear that many other productions have followed in our wake, and that the world is finally discovering the beauty that all you Albertans have known since birth. But the grandeur, the spectacular Rockies, the hospitable people aside, it is your conscientiousness, your 24-hour-a-day availability, your friendliness, your passion for cinema that brings filmmakers to Alberta. I wish I could be present at your celebration to join in the toast that acknowledges you as the unique talent that you are. I look forward to doing it again with you sometime soon. Best wishes always, David Valdez."
As significant as Unforgiven was, big-time productions were just getting started with Alberta. In 1993, Disney released Cool Runnings with John Candy. It famously chronicled the feel-good story of the Jamaican bobsled team at the 1988 Winter Olympics here in Calgary. Despite not earning any notable accolades, Cool Runnings remains a buzzword to this day for the Calgarians who remember it, as it really put the city on display internationally at the time. The following year, Edward Zwick brought Jim Harrison's Western novella, Legends of the Fall, to life using the picturesque landscapes of southern Alberta and the on-screen charisma of Anthony Hopkins, Aidan Quinn, Julia Ormond, and a young Brad Pitt. The film went on to garner 3 Oscar nominations and 4 Golden Globe nods, taking home the Oscar for Best Cinematography in 1995. Under the surface, Legends of the Fall was actually an incredibly complex shoot that endured, like many films do, plenty of insecurity along the way. Despite this, many consider it a classic, and John, well, why don't you just hear it from him?
It's absolutely great. I've had quite a ride being involved in this business, but one of the highlights of my life was I was doing transportation on a show that came over here from Vancouver. Casey Grant was the production manager, and she hired me to put together the transportation for a unit shoot on a show called Leaving Normal. And Ed Swick was the director on it. Joe Dodds had worked with me a lot, and he was his driver, and they got talking about Westerns, and Ed Swick says, well, I got this great Western. And he says, is there any chance we could do anything around here with it? And the Western was called Legends of the Fall. Joe says, well, give the script to John and see what he can do. Well, I got this script. I read it about 3 times. I couldn't put it down. It was one of the greatest things I'd ever read. So I hooked up with Ed Swick and said, I want to help you make this picture. You should make it here in Alberta. Well, he spent 7.5 years trying to make that picture. I spent 4.5 years with him, along with a friend of mine, a good location manager called Murray Ord. And we kept taking pictures everywhere, all over Alberta, of what would fit into this script, into this book. The year before we got it going, it was going to be Sean Connery, Mel Gibson, and Tom Cruise as the boys. And the studio shot us down. They said, no, Connery wasn't bankable for some reason. So back to the drawing board again. We consistently tried this all the time. And Ed Swick brought in Anthony Hopkins, Brad Pitt, and Aidan Quinn, and I brought in the indigenous man, Gordon Tootoosis. We had a flickering green light to get it going. He says, what do you think we should do? I said, we've got to spend as much money as quick as we can, wherever we can, to make this thing work. So we went to Gastown in Vancouver, put dirt on the roads, took out all the parking meters, took out all the high wires and electrical lines and everything else, painted a lot of the buildings right in downtown Gastown, shipped about 15, 20 wagons over there on the railway and hauled horses over there and got her going. We had a flickering green light that could have shut us down with a week's notice. And then after the first week, they liked what they saw and we were away. It had the second highest gross box office opening in Germany, only behind Star Wars. It's still a successful picture. You still see it today, and I still think people get entertained, and they still like it. It's one of the classics. And to be involved with that from beginning to end and seeing all the hell that Ed Swick went through and everybody went through to try and make this work. And Brad Pitt had never ridden a horse. We had to show him how to ride. He rode 7 different horses in that picture, and I thought he looked pretty good on them all. So the scenery and everything else and the whole story came together, and we had a fantastic group of cowboys and stunt people and everything else we went through so much. We went through World War I, we went through the ranch, we went through Prohibition, where they're stealing whiskey and hiding whiskey. It was quite a story.
How long will you be gone?
Not long, a few months.
I can make it better for you.
No.
If we'd had a child, or if I were pregnant, would you still be going?
Yes.
Just give me a chance.
Don't do that.
Look at me. Please, look at me. I'll wait for you. However long it takes. I'll wait for you forever.
As fruitful as the 1990s were to Alberta's film industry, the years to follow would actually yield equally impressive productions and even more international recognition. In 2000, Jackie Chan, Owen Wilson, and Lucy Liu starred in the Western comedy Shanghai Noon, which was shot in and around Calgary, including on location at the CL Ranch. Its sequel, Shanghai Nights, was also filmed partially in Calgary. The next year, Warner Brothers production Exit Wounds, starring Steven Seagal, shut down the Center Street Bridge in Calgary for the famous shootout scene over the Bow River, during which the iconic lion statues lining the bridge were removed. Although it's not exactly critically acclaimed, Exit Wounds debuted #1 at the box office in 2001.
In 2005, production for the Ang Lee neo-Western drama Brokeback Mountain came to southern Alberta, filming in Canmore and around Kananaskis. Starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Heath Ledger, and Anne Hathaway, Brokeback Mountain shifted perceptions of what a Western film could be, as it depicted the complexities of a romance between two American cowboys during the mid-20th century. Overall, the film was incredibly well received. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but ended up winning Best Director, Adapted Screenplay, and Original Score. Additionally, Brokeback Mountain garnered 7 different nominations at the 63rd Golden Globe Awards, winning 4 of them. A couple years later, Brad Pitt and David Valdez would each return to Alberta to film the Andrew Dominik Western, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, co-starring Casey Affleck. Often referred to as one of the best Westerns of the 21st century, filming around both Edmonton and Calgary, this production captured Alberta in spectacular fashion. Composed by Nick Cave and Warren Ellis, photographed by Roger Deakins, Jesse James is one of the most haunting and stunning pictures filmed on the Western prairies.
Whether it was the early 20th century or the turn of the millennium, one of the surfacing themes through our conversations with Mary Graham and John Scott is that the films made here in Alberta continuously stand the test of time. There isn't necessarily the same hallmark volume that is experienced in other film hubs in Canada, but the productions that do come here make a lasting mark on the medium for years, even decades. So far, we've been fortunate to lean into such experienced industry spokespeople, and for that, we're grateful. A massive final thank you goes to John Scott for hosting us at his ranch in Longview and for speaking thoughtfully to some of the many memories he's made throughout his career in this industry.
The province's film history is a lot more rich and complex than any of us expected. As previously explored in Part 1, Movie People, Indigenous communities have been at the helm of this industry's genesis, and their influence still continues as they pave the path to tell stories in their own voices. An Albertan trailblazing this is Blackfoot filmmaker Trevor Solway from Siksika Nation. Through documentary, narrative film, and the horror comedy genre, Trevor not only reflects the Indigenous experience, but turns it on its head.
I always tell this to Indigenous filmmakers that any story you tell is inherently an Indigenous story. You can make a sci-fi film, you can make a horror film, you can make a fantasy film, you can make a rom-com, any film you want. It's going to fit into Indigenous cinema because it comes from your place of lived experience and from your lens.
Homesteads to Hollywood is a CJSW original recorded and produced in Calgary, Alberta. Our outreach coordinator is Natalie Schmidt. Audio editing is from Maria Pladneva. Assistant production and research from Ingrid Vargas, and is executively produced by myself, Liam Daw. Music for this episode, including the theme track you heard during the intro, is composed by Calgary's own Young Neighbors. In order of appearance, film clips used throughout the episode come from Michael Ritchie's 1972 film Prime Cut, the 1978 Paramount Pictures Terrace Malick feature Days of Heaven, and the 1994 Edward Zwick film Legends of the Fall, distributed by Sony Pictures.